These are assembly instructions to my Monster Truck treat box. I created my original version using cardstock and foil craft board, but for this version I'm going to add some vinyl. So some of the pieces I've converted into vinyl, and others I've kept the cardstock base, and just for like the wheels that I'm doing now, I'm adding some vinyl to the cardstock just to give my pieces a little bit more shine. I have 4 full wheels. I have the cardstock layer and I have the vinyl layer with the score in the center. I'm going to apply my vinyl to my wheel. And then I have that middle piece. This piece is cut out of silver foil craft board, and I'm just gluing it down into the scored circle that's in the middle of my wheel. And then I'm putting that aside to make sure it dries properly. So if you notice, the tread on these 2 wheels is going in this direction, whereas the tread on the other side of the car, so on these 2 wheels, is going in this direction. When you're assembling them, make sure you're adhering your pieces to the right base. I have more of that silver craft board for my wheels. I'm dry fitting my wheels, making sure that I have them in the right direction. I'm just putting glue on the underside of my wheel pieces and just gluing them down, matching up the edges as best I can. And I'm doing that for both sets of wheels. My truck pieces are cut out of 80-pound cardstock, and I'm folding down on all the score lines for all 3 pieces. So next I'm taking the piece that has the 2 cutouts in it, and I'm flipping it over so that I'm looking at the interior of it. And I have 2 panels that I'm going to glue in over the cutouts. The larger one goes over the rectangular one, and the shorter one goes over the one with the trapezoid shape. I could use glue here and glue in my panels, then I'd have to wait for it to dry. So just to be able to continue with the tutorial, I'm going to be using double-sided tape. I'm just putting my red line tape around the perimeter of both cutouts. So now I'm removing the liner of my double-sided tape. Since this is the interior of my box, I'm gluing the foil side down. I want right against that score line and as centered as I can vertically. So this is the exterior. So this is the part that will be seen. And I'm doing that on the second one as well. And I'm placing my second rectangle over the opening and gluing it down right at that score line. So next I have the base piece for my car with the car window. So this is the interior of my box. And I have more of that silver craft board. And again, I'm putting double-sided tape around the perimeter of both windows on the interior of my truck. Again, I'm removing the liner from my double-sided tape. I'm gluing down my foil piece so that foil piece is covering the opening. I'm doing that on the other side as well. So while the body of my truck can still be flattened, I'm going to add the decals on the side of the truck. So I'm starting with my orange layer. I'm laying my layer so that the edge is right along the front edge of my monster truck. I'm using previously used transfer tape, so it's not as sticky and won't damage my cardstock. So in the original version, this is just cardstock, and you would just put glue on the underside of the cardstock and glue it in place. And then I have my yellow layer. I'm just matching it up along the wheel well. I'm going to flip my piece, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side of my truck. So next I'm taking that longer piece of the body of my truck. So I have the front windshield towards me and the back window away from me. And I'm just putting glue all along that front tab. And I'm gluing the front tab to the front piece of my truck. And I want to make sure the score lines are even and that that cut edge of the front of my truck is right along the score line of my tab. So next I'm putting glue on that first tab on the left hand side. I have my first score line and I have a point on my truck, and I'm just matching them up, and I'm doing that on the right hand side of my truck as well. So next I'm putting glue on the next 3 tabs on the left hand side. I'm tucking them under the side of my truck. So all these score lines should be just where my piece changes direction. This score line is going to be folding upwards. So I'm just going to glue in those 3 same tabs on the right hand side of my vehicle. So next I'm putting glue on the tab that's beside the windshield, and I'm gluing that one in. And I'm doing the same thing on the right hand side. Next I'm putting glue on the tab that's at the top of my truck and just gluing that in. I'm doing the same on the tab that's on the other side. I'm putting my hand inside the truck and just applying pressure. And then I have the 2 tabs on either side, and then the tab that's at the bottom. The tab that's at the bottom, I'm folding it upwards like so. And then I'm putting glue on both those side tabs. and then on the underside of that bottom tab. I'm tucking those side tabs in and just carefully folding everything in place. Next, I have the back section of my truck. So I've got that tab at the bottom. So I have more of that foil craft board. And I'm just gluing that right above the score line for my tab. And then I have my little lights that go over it. I'm just gluing those down. I cut these out of red foil craft board. So next I'm putting glue all over that bottom tab. And I'm placing it right along the bottom of my truck. I want the cut edge of my truck to go right along the score line of that tab. And then I have those tabs on either side. So I'm just lifting up the back of my truck and gluing it to the sides on both sides. And this flap is just to reinforce this piece. So I'm just putting glue all over from the score line to the edge. And I am folding it over. And then I have my wheel pieces. So my wheel pieces fit just like so. So I'm just putting glue along that blue part right up to the vinyl and just along the wheel on the back. I've got glue on this wheel and glue on that part of my truck. And then I'm positioning my wheel piece, making sure it's exactly where it needs to be. So I'm using that vinyl as a guide to position my wheel. I'm going to flip my piece over, and then I have these wheel pieces. That's just to cover the back of my wheels. I'm just putting glue on the underside of them. So I'm just gluing them down. And then I have my second set of wheels, and I'm doing the exact same thing with my second set of wheels, gluing them in the same way. Then I have those same pieces for the inside of the wheels, and I'm just gluing them down as well. Then I have the piece for the front. I have the long strip at the bottom, and it overlaps by just a little bit on both sides. I just want to make sure it's more or less even on both sides. Then I have my little grill piece. I had some yellow glitter cardstock. I decided to cut the lights out of that, and I'm just gluing that down pretty much as you see it here, trying to center everything as much as possible. So I'm just going to be gluing this down to the front of my vehicle. And then I have these little trim pieces that I'm putting at the front and at the back. I'm just going to glue those down. I'm doing that on the other side as well. And so that's my little monster truck.